Hey, Steve here. Pontiac named Jonah behind me. Still exhausted from that last video. But it occurred to me while I was working on the engine bay that there was a whole story of another car that almost became Jonah. But it wasn't what it was advertised. So I took the liberty of, before buying any car, considering it, I would mock it up with my little boy's name plate on the front and the vanity plate on the rear the way that it is now. And you'll see that in this first picture here that will show you my mock-up of the way that the car looked in the Craigslist ad, and then you'll get to see the pictures of what it actually looked like. See you in a bit. So as you can see, this was one of the 63s that I considered when I was seriously looking for the car that I bought. And that's what it looked like in the Craigslist ads when it popped up. Crazy thing about the car, it was a Grand Prix. It was a really, really nice Grand Prix. I was in love with it from when I saw the ads, but I was set to go out to Cincinnati. It popped up on Cincinnati Craigslist, and the night before I was going out to look at it, the guy called me and said that his brother could not bear to have the car go outside of the family, so he begged him to sell it to him, and he sold it to his brother, and he apologized to me, and I was super disappointed for a long time. And crazy thing is this car was like a unicorn. So it was a Southgate, California car. It had an S in the VIN, and it was pretty much loaded. It had air conditioning, it had power, everything. It had all the options. And as you can see now in some of these pictures, it's a little rough. Well, a year later, the brother called me on the phone and asked me if I was still interested in the car, to which I responded, yes, absolutely. And it was actually not too long before I bought the Bonneville, but he had stated that he needed to pay some tuition for one of his kids or something along those lines, and that, if I was still interested. So I called around the area, which ended up being Florida, because since then, you can see some rust there. Since then, the brother had moved to Florida and taken the car with him. But you can see from some of these pictures that it's lived a northern life. Apparently, it's really easy to see. But I called a few places down in the area and found a guy that wanted to charge me $75, and he went and took 150 pictures. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better deal. I ended up tipping him $25 and just sent him a check for $100, and we were good to go. But when he had called me, he said he had said, "Do you realize the rust on this car?" And I said, "No, not really." So he sent me the pictures, and you can see the pinch welds. The pinch welds are pretty bad underneath there. The finish on the car, it wasn't terrible. I mean, it looks like it would need buffed out and things like that. But as you see, you can see some little bubbles here and there. You'll see some more of that as it goes on. Normally, that's, I guess, indicative of bigger problems at large. So he sent me the pictures, and I got a bunch. I got a lot of these. I didn't put all of them in this video, but there were a good bit of them that gave me a better picture of what the car was. And you can see the typical GM bubbling around the rear window trim. It's almost like a hallmark of these cars. But the Grand Prix has the different sloped rear windshield, and I assume that more moisture probably collected at the bottom there. Is probably more typical for these cars than anything else. But so I talked to the brother, the current owner, and told him that I would love to give the car a new home, but with my knowledge and expertise, there was no way, like it was a little too much for me. And at that point, I knew nothing. I hadn't done anything, you know. But you can see the interior looks pretty good. Some of the interior is not bad. The carpet's pretty much gone. But I believe those white floor mats are factory original. I have ones that are aqua, but I believe those are factory original, as are mine, because in reproduction the only ones that are available are blue, black, and red. But you can see really good center cap clarity on the steering wheel. But I pretty much told him that there's not much that I even if I paid $5,000 for it, I don't think that I would have the money or the know-how to get it to where it deserves to be. And the car deserves to be restored, you know. And the interior is actually, it's really, really close. It's almost the same exact to my Bonneville that I currently own now. And as you can see, it had, you know, a little over 100,000 miles. It had turned the odometer at that point. And then, you know, the headliner here, there was a little hole there, and then there was another hole kind of being concealed by the visor. And that's, well, I mean, obviously it's a pain, but that scared me away. The seals were a little cracked. It was just, you could really tell, like I said, that this car had lived a northern life, and that I wonder if it had gotten to the point where, you know, maintaining it got to be too much, you know. But it looks like the seat belts were changed at some point, because I don't think black seat belts were correct on the car. But my car actually came with a center console, the Bonneville that I have now, and then the quality of the center console that I have is just about the same as that when the paint started to fade and everything is refinished. You can really see some of the rust underneath the fenders there and underneath the trim. So I was even more disappointed the second time, because I had thought that this car, you know, kind of came around and that it was meant to be, you know. And you can see the frame there, and the body mount bushings don't look bad, but there's pretty good scaling there. But scaling is not too bad on the frame. So underneath it doesn't look bad. I was worried about really inside the body panels, and you can see some rot in the trunk there, up in, and if that's that way, then the floors are probably the same, you know. But the engine compartment that you're looking at now, it's not in terrible disrepair, but in order to get it presentable would be a pretty big undertaking. And like I said, I didn't know too much at the time. So I guess just to wrap up, it was a candidate. It was a possible candidate. I would have loved for it to be. But also, my Bonneville has the better of the two transmissions in full size that year. I have the Super Hydromatic that's a little more like a Jetaway. But this one, the Grand Prix and the Catalina, had the Roto Hydromatic 10, the dreaded Slim Jim transmission that was prone to failure all the time. So, probably a blessing in disguise, even though I do feel like this car needs to be restored. I just wish that I wish it could be me, but there's no way. And you can see a lot of heat in the engine compartment. A lot of the wiring, the tape around the wiring is melted and everything. So, but that's about it. I will kick back to myself in the garage, and then I can take you out of here. Thanks for listening.
So that's it. Not really the car that it was built to be, even though I kind of wish it was. I don't know. That Slim Jim Roto Hydromatic 10 transmission, like I said, scares the crap out of me. But that car deserves to be restored. Man, that thing has so many options. What a cool car. But it was just a little out of my range expertise and money that I have to put into it. So, all right, Steve, signing off. See you. Catch you next time.